I talk a lot about collective memory on this channel, mostly in the form of Jung's collective unconscious. But I don't often bring up scientific empirical evidence that would support this idea. So today I'm going to do just that. I gathered some of this evidence from a Rupert Sheldrake video. I've talked about Sheldrake before on the channel. He's the guy who supports the concept of morphogenetic fields and morphic resonance.
Morphic resonance is a connection across time from the past to the present. And it's a process that occurs between organized patterns of activity on the basis of similarity. What it means, in effect, is that each species has a kind of collective memory.
An idea that I'm still familiarizing myself with. Nonetheless, this evidence was particularly intriguing for me because of how much I'm drawn to the idea of a collective species memory. Typically, when we talk about evolution, we're talking about genetic heredity or epigenetic heredity, that which comes from the environment, but we don't talk about the passing down of behaviors, learned behaviors. It's just not typically how evolution is conceived. Nonetheless, scientists performed this set of experiments in the 20th century on rats. First set was in Britain. They did it on 22 successive generations of rats. They had these rats perform a maze task, and they observed that with each successive generation, the rats were performing the task with fewer errors prior to completion. At the beginning of the study, it was something like rats were making over 200 errors before completing the task, and by the end, by generation 22, it was around 25. So this is a massive improvement, and it does imply this collective memory, this collective passing down of the ability to perform this task. Scientists are completely baffled by this concept. What is going on? We have no reason to believe that this would be possible. We're going to perform the experiment again, this time in Scotland, this time with rats that were of the same breed, but not genetically related. What they found is that these rats picked up where the previous rats had left off. They didn't need to go through the process of reducing their errors from 200 to 25. They started right at 25. These are animals that just a handful of generations ago were performing a task significantly worse than those of future generations. In fact, we see something similar within human beings. There's this effect called the Flynn effect. I might have mentioned it before on this channel. It was this guy, James Flynn, who observed that the performance on IQ tests had increased over time.
All throughout the 20th century, we can trace that each generation is scoring higher than its predecessor.
A lot of these IQ measures were taking place in the 20th century. Humans have been very interested in categorizing intelligence, so there have been more and more people taking these IQ tests. As it turns out, we've been getting better at the IQ tests. Does that imply that we're getting more intelligent as a species? Maybe. I might have thought that at one point, but probably not. More so what's going on is it's an evolutionary adaptation. Offspring are now primed to be able to perform these tasks better than their parents simply because of this collective memory. This concept has ramifications that span across all of human societies. I mean, the idea of collective memory implies that humans are going to be better at adapting to technology in the future. They're going to be better at learning the new technologies. They're perhaps going to be better equipped to handle the presence of technology. Who knows what's really going to happen? What I do know is that there have been a lot of recent challenges to neo-Darwinian theory. Very intrigued by these challenges to evolution and how we typically conceive of evolution. To be clear, I'm not interested in refuting the idea of evolution. More so, I think our models of evolution need to be slightly updated. They need to accommodate this concept of learned behaviors that are passed down from one generation to the next. This idea of collective memory. For anyone who's interested in having a conversation on this topic, who knows more about these subjects than I do, I'd love to sit down and talk. There's so much that we don't know on this subject, and so much that we're going to discover in the near future.